Thank you very much, Conrad, for this kind invitation. And Soteria's events are actually, in my opinion, becoming more and more essential, timely, and beneficial, not only for its own members, sister movements, but also would help to shed light on the discrimination being faced by larger religions like my own, which in this case is Islam. For that, please accept my heartfelt thanks. I have had a long but peaceful discussion with my dear friend Lucas, he's sitting there, about the contribution I can make to bring some of my own experience to this round table. Lucas is a philosophically inclined person who looks at human rights issues from various angles, whereas I am a practitioner who is one-track-minded person. So please bear with me if I am direct and not so intricate and subtle. This roundtable has an overarching theme of self-determination, mind manipulation, and religious teachings. But hidden in this grand vision are many subtitles, sub-themes, which, in my opinion, needs answers. And it is here I shall make an effort to provide some useful clues. So what are those smaller but equally important issues we need to tackle here in this roundtable? The first thing which comes to mind is criminalization of the free thinking, which is should not be an option in an open society. The second thing is self-determination and how self-determination can be achieved and secured by a strong individual freedom of thought, conscience, and belief. The third thing is, should authorities, in this case state, have a role in strengthening the freedom of thought, conscience, and belief? And in all this scheme of things, where do spiritual teaching fit in? Last but not least, can we relate this to some kind of best practices which are out there and which sometimes we do not focus on? So to sum up, we have to look at the individual and individual needs, the importance of religion, and the role of the state, and add to that society's needs contra state obligations towards an individual. So these were kind of things which I wanted to talk about. Now, when we talk about an individual, the first thing which comes to mind is enlightenment of an individual, because an individual without enlightenment, in my opinion, is like a stone, you know. So to put it a little bit more graphically, many centuries back, the great German thinker and philosopher Immanuel Kant said, enlightenment is the freedom from our own self-imposed prison. So have the courage to use your own intelligence, and this is therefore the motto of the Enlightenment, to free yourself. Freedom of an individual, however, requires, again, in my own thinking, it requires a space where he or she can operate freely without barriers, harassment, intimidation, and unnecessary guidance from others. And of course, with a responsible attitude towards the surrounding. We talk a lot about freedom of expression and thought and action, but it's not a question of having a right. It is a right. But it should be a tool to enable one to think freely. And since sum of individual makes a society, and not the other way around, thus an individual's actions, ability to act, think freely, and express that must come under responsible behavior and always for the good of the society. If not, then our action will become self-centered and limited in scope and without broader acceptance. In short, we create our own reality and truth. The other day, I was invited to see a movie about the life of Niels Bohr. I'm sure you know, all of you know, he's a great Danish scientist. But one thing which people do not really focus on, that he was a great philosopher too. And in scientific work, he used a lot of philosophical thinking in that. And there in this movie, he said something very beautiful. And it was the pondering of the issue, the truth searching through clarity of mind, or truth in itself leading to clear thinking, thus making it easy for an individual to relate to the truth. So, and why I'm mentioning is that that we all look for truth. But sometimes truth is right in front of our eyes, and we just do not see it. We don't see it because we don't think clearly. And I also believe that for that to happen, there is a great need for re-education. Re-education of humanity is alpha and omega. That education, which is spiritual in nature, humane in character, and of course inclusive in its nature. It should be timeless, and it should be beneficial for all. I keep on saying all the time, for all, because that is very important for us, that we are not selfish, or we shouldn't be selfish only to take care of ourselves, but we should also think about the people around us. Education for me is not only to be qualified to have a good job or a career, but also education helps us to be a decent and loving person who is able to think for himself or herself as well as for the fellow human being. Such a person, in my opinion, would not be prone to mental manipulation, intellectual subjugation, or even financial exploitation. And here I want to quote a great Indian Pakistani philosopher and poet, Dr. Muhammad Iqbal. He asked the individual to elevate himself or herself and to such a higher self-consciousness that even God asks the man, "What do you want from me?" That it's a man who is being asked by God, "Hey, what is your wish? What is your desire?" And not the other way around. So let's look at this in the European context. What is that we who work with these issues should need from the European governments, and what is this context? I believe that state should provide level playing field for all religion, whether it is funding, whether it is societal acceptance, possibility of propagation, legal protection against demonization, and media hatred. I know that we all are aware of the media power, but I just want to show you, share with you one little cutting from a few weeks back from a Danish newspaper, that America is now monitoring the use of porno by the Muslims. Amazing, you know, that we have come, the state has come so low that they're using the media now to bring this message that, hey, we are watching you. So even if you go on the website, not about terrorism, but even porno, we are looking at you. So media is very important in our work. And if we know how to deal with media, and I think that will help us very much. The second thing I think is very important is the state should give up the role of a tough father, but instead be a loving mother in its treatment of all religious movements. It means that it must give up its part in criminalizing those who challenge status quo. As we all know, we live in a rapidly changing world, globalization and internet age. Those who want to maintain the status quo are the ones who are often resistant to progress. But it is not the duty of the state to favor some religion while discriminate others. People may resent you for disturbing the status quo. That's okay for me. It is their right but governments are for all citizens. They must not be selective in their treatment, nor should they provide support, financial and moral, to those NGOs and individuals who take upon themselves to monitor, observe, and publicly try to discredit new religions. They can do it with their own resources if they so wish. Another point which is very important is that state must stop discrimination and categorizing people according to their religion, whether they are small or big, popular or traditional. The state and religion relationship in Europe is very confusing in my opinion. In most European countries, they try to project the image of neutrality by the secular state and religious non-interference from majority established religion, basically Christianity. The reality is the opposite. Even in France, the pantheon of the declared secularity, Catholicism plays an important role. State's job should be to support an individual through various means so that a good citizen is able to take charge of his or her own life. And here comes the new religion movements. I have no problem if those new religion movement and other religion are observed for the good of the mankind. But that observation should be with neutrality and objectivity and not with suspicion and control. There are now efforts on the EU level where discrimination on the basis of religion or belief comes under hate crimes. And Viviane Reding, the EU Commissioner for Justice, Fundamental Rights and Citizenship, has recently said in the European Parliament that EU needs to have a new narrative. And I hope that she will convince the national states to listen to her, and that will make the European dream of an individual freedom to live according to his or her own conscience come true. The truth is that there is no point of having freedom if the ability to exercise is not there. For an example, what good is to vote if the option to choose from is lacking? I cannot help narrating Immanuel Kant again. He said, act so that your principle of action might safely be made a law for the whole world. In short, Kant is telling us that real freedom is inside of us. It helps us to challenge our own preconceived ideas inherited by family or society before we take on the world. In this effort, we must be resolute and again, in the works of Kant, seek not the favor of the multitude. It is the seldom got by honest and lawful means, but seek the testimony of few and number not voices, but weigh them. To end this talk, I have a direct appeal to all those who are working with religious discrimination, prejudices, and against demonization of human rights of all kind. We cannot have our voice heard in the society, or listened to by the authorities, or even help those who are in dire need if we are not united. In October conference in Brussels, I have asked for the creation of a common platform to promote our ideas, propagate our vision, and support each other in our hour of need. And I can promise you that my organization, AMISCO, which is European Muslim Initiative for Social Cohesion, will do all it can to convey the message, strengthen our efforts, and support each other in the hour of trouble, in need, and if the contexts are required, we have plenty of contexts in European Union. So all we have to do is organize and raise our voice, because sometimes I feel that people who work with religious discrimination are people who are searching for something fulfilling in their lives are a little bit afraid to take up the challenge. They should not be. When you feel that the truth is on your side, when you feel that you're not hurting anybody, when you know that you want to help people to be decent human being, then you should have a little bit confrontation in front of you. And we should not be afraid what people will say. People will say anyway. So I think that tomorrow when we meet, that we should have a vision, but we should also somehow get going. Because otherwise, we'll sit here next year and next year and next year, we'll talk about the same thing. So my personal request will be, let's get together and start making some noise. Thank you very much.